we're set. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:35. 17 documents open, so here's the agenda. Welcome guests. We have Mr. Tim Young with us this evening. That's our only guest this evening. Review of previous minutes. Actually, does anybody else have to leave? I know we had others that did not come that we're going to have to turn around and take out. Are we good for the whole meeting? Okay. All right. Because if not, I was going to rearrange them.
Yeah, I think we should probably go out of order in any event, but we can certainly start with Tim and set him free.
Are you good?
I'll second that.
You're planning to hang out, right? For the
I'm
meeting?
just here as
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
I don't have anything.
Oh, okay. So everybody should have received a PDF document, which I'm now trying to find on my own computer. Contract award for the painting. We want to get this reviewed and approved because we can still get the library painted this year if we can get this going. So the letter from Town Hall basically says they received 8 bids. They have chosen MJS Construction, Inc. of Wakefield, Massachusetts, with the lowest bid that meets all of the criteria required by the bid at $17,642. We simply need to approve this and they can get this in the works.
And I know at least 5 references were checked, and that caused a little bit of the delay.
Okay. So this is for painting the exterior of the building, including the trim. It's all outlined in great detail in the bid process.
So then we're going to stamp of this, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So Town Hall has approved, they have approved them as meeting all the criteria they need to meet.
Yeah, they went through the procurement process,
Okay.
and they are recommending this vendor.
So make a motion that we accept that letter as presented from the selectmen.
I think you need to move to, in the meeting, you need to move to accept the contract, and you also need to move to sign the contract, which you will physically sign later.
Do we sign it?
You sign it.
So they did all the work and we're going to sign it?
Yes.
Pretty much.
So, John Manning, you're moving to accept the bid?
Well, if that's the first thing we do, is accept the bid?
Yes.
Yes, I move that we accept the bid.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
And the second thing we need to do is what?
And then do you have Deb Egan's memo?
Did she outline the whole quotations?
I do know that you will be signing a contract not in a meeting, you know what I mean? So
Do I have to sign or do we all?
So
I
Chairman.
think a quorum has to sign it.
Oh, okay.
But once it's awarded, which you've just done tonight, then they send it to MJS, and then they sign it and send it back, and then we sign it.
You just leave it and tell us what you want and come in and sign it.
Okay.
Yes. And I actually already have a meeting with them, a pre-start meeting.
This actually only
Next
says that we have to
Tuesday.
vote
Okay,
to accept the contract.
okay.
So we should be good.
So, and if anyone wants to come to the pre-paint meeting with MJS, it's next Tuesday at 10 a.m. And I know you all have day jobs, but that's when it is.
Okay.
It's next Tuesday.
Yes.
Do you want anybody with you, or you just?
I think Doreen from Town Hall will probably be there. She's been there when we had pre-bid meetings before.
Yeah.
We'll just walk around and specify this, and that, you know, so everyone's on the same page on what was expected.
2 p.m. did you say?
10 a.m.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to the agenda, that was out of order, but I'm glad we got that
The
done.
thing that
That was
has
really
to
the
get
thing
done
that we needed to get done
tonight.
tonight. So,
And that, again, that was approved at town meeting.
right, that
So
actually,
it's been bonded out.
I think we were approved for 20,000 and that came in at 17. So
Yes.
that was the other piece of the criteria that it actually came in
And
affordably.
At one point in time, I did have the range, but it went from like the 17 up to like 80.
80?
I think so, yeah.
$80,000.
Maybe I'm confusing.
We didn't take it, so that's okay.
Yeah, no, there was an astonishing astonishing range.
Wow, okay, I'll go with 17.
Bargain.
Okay, so we have, oops, I just opened our thing. We have the August meeting minutes somewhere on the computer.
Anybody want a handout?
I can make them.
Grab
John,
mine.
can you get them? Do you need them too?
Yeah, I do. It's easier to write the changes on this
Oh,
and then
okay.
change it later.
I just have to get them directly. So many minutes. Okay. One thing I noticed, just a spelling typo, the director's report, bullet 1, Gage is missing a U.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to mention tonight as well. Jonathan, did you, and I'm not to go out of order, I know we talked about doing some research on replacing the pager counters.
I did, but I didn't write up anything. There's one that I saw was the best, I didn't print it out, but there is a myriad of selections there.
There are
But there was
a lot.
one that I saw had the most libraries using it,
Mhm,
and I didn't get to the point of getting a price quote on it, but
Okay.
I can look it up and email that to you.
And I've looked at the vendor websites a little bit, and really, you can't glean much. You kind of have to call and talk to a sales rep is what I took away from the small amount of research that I did.
What was I saw? I mean, talk about the ones we have now, electro-optical, are they light,
They-
RF?
Yeah, they bounce a little laser off a reflector.
Okay.
But they're also about this high, so little fingers push that reset button.
But not the fingers that belong to my
And do you get a manual count on that?
Yes.
So the ones I looked at, I thought were preferable. There's two ways to do it. Either they're both wireless. One, you can go to a web portal and you just log in your credentials and it's there. You can do everything you want with it. The other one goes to like your desktop, your PC, and you just log in and there's the count.
I'm a little leery of the wireless versions only because, and we're replacing it, but our wireless system right now is also a little unreliable. So I don't know if you need that wireless signal or if it's recorded and you just access it
You
later.
need,
Yeah,
you need to have your wireless function. It's for
Right.
Wi-Fi.
right.
But what's going on with the Wi-Fi?
Did we just prove?
Yeah, we're waiting on IT to have time to bring that. In fact, I asked them for an update for you guys tonight and they said Tuesday, right?
And we still don't have an
And we
update.
still don't have an
Okay.
update. But basically, if you know PRS, it's two brothers and basically them. And I don't know how many plans they have, but occasionally they get busy with emergencies. And I feel like if it was my emergency, I would want their immediate attention. So I'm more patient with the more mundane things. But we're ready to go.
So what's the matter with the Wi-Fi? Is it just-
It goes, well, we don't really want to bother to investigate. It's a 10-year-old router
Oh.
and it goes down.
Don't say another word.
Yeah, it goes
It's
down.
So far.
It might be like an authentication process, it might be the heat, it might be, we don't know, but it goes down. Like once a week, someone comes to us and said, because of course we don't use it. So once a week, someone says, I'm not getting a signal, and we power cycle it, and then it's better.
Yeah, I had to replace mine in my house, and it was only 5 years old because it couldn't support the Windows 8 laptops.
Right.
So I'd work and my kids got down, yeah.
So, I mean, if I can get a guarantee that, you know, this new system is going to be constant and uninterrupted, then we can look at those models. But what we have now, I would not want to do that.
Yeah, if you upgrade to current technology, it'll be fairly robust and reliable. And I'd say that we probably want to put something in for capital placement into the capital budget that we don't let it go 10 years. That is so far on the spec. I mean, 10 years, yeah, and that's never been changed. So I'd say every 3
Like a
years.
3 to 4 year cycle.
Yeah, I'd say every 3 years to keep it usable and current. So if you can, you know, just my 2 cents, anyone else wants to jump in?
So anyway, the anecdote that I was going to share with you was, as many of you know, the town election was here last Tuesday. And traffic was funneled in the front door and out the side door, out this door.
Okay.
Yes. Now, our patron counters tick every other time. That way we don't, otherwise you have to manually divide by 2 at the end of the day to get your ins and your outs. So I was thinking, oh, well, first I was thinking, I need to just negate that day because they were all here to vote, they weren't here to use the library. And then I thought, well, it's like if it was a big meeting or, it's still people in the library. So then I said we should count them, but I need to remember to double it because everybody
Went out that way.
came in and was out. And at the end of the day, the counter said 50. And I asked Michelle how many people voted, and she said 850. So it's possible that it only goes up to 999 and it flipped over, is one theory.
Sounds reasonable.
Does it have a feeling, is it like 3 little wheels?
You can't really,
Well, how do you get the number? Do you just see a number?
just like an LCD.
You could actually, if you
How
took
many
a bright
digits?
flashlight, you could
You
see.
can't really tell, it's just a
Uh,
black,
If you took a
rectangle.
flashlight, you shot
Oh,
right
that-
at it,
yeah.
and you looked at it, you could see how many LED squares are in there.
okay.
And that
Yeah.
probably sounds like it's a,
That's our theory right now. And I think what I'll do for the final count is just put in that 850 that we know voted.
yeah, they
That was
literally
kind of a
have to
head
come through
scratcher.
it. There's your count right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if, the workers were back and forth and some people came with kids who didn't go in, there was, it's not exact, but it's,
Several people jumped over the rope in the back.
well, don't tell Sue Hazen that.
She yelled at me.
For the record, while we're on that topic, I had an email from Sue saying, please extend to Pam and the library trustees our thanks for allowing us to hold the state primary at the library. We have great optimism that St. Mary's is going to be functional by November 4th, but some of my election workers won't be happy about going back because they loved the library space. We tried to straighten out everything at the end of the day. I hope everything was in order. Again, thank you. So that was from Town Hall.
What's up with St. Mary's? What's the problem over there?
Septic.
Okay.
They had to, one of the delays, Father Weber just said last week, they were trying to put in the tank, it's a tight tank system, it's going to pump to the leach field, which is up in the front. The water table out back, which is the reason they never redid it, because they were trying to put it in the back, is that the water table was, even with the drought, it came up so high they couldn't seat the tanks, and they had to wait for another week or 2 weeks, which they didn't anticipate. That's what put them off. So last Sunday he said they're on track for 2 weeks from now, which will be another 1 week. So, construction stuff.
Okay, so are we digressing? Anything?
Yeah, sorry, that's,
We're on the meeting minutes, so is there?
I just wanted to share that anecdote about the patron counters.
Did everybody, I'm looking at what we had from our meeting minutes, did everybody send Pam notes on the website designs?
I'm sure she was inundated.
We really need to get those
Have
back.
you seen that yet? I don't remember who's seen it and who hasn't.
I think, yeah, because didn't you want to change the text on the Friends? You've seen it, haven't you, on the website?
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, right, we talked about the changes that need to be made. Tim sent me an update. Well, Tim said, I'll make the changes in WordPress once it's,
Right.
yeah.
And you have mine from before.
You sent me an email. I have a couple little things from the staff. I myself have not had time to sit down and go through it carefully. The one thing that jumped out at me was that the birds. There's all kinds of information about the gardens and nothing about the birds. So we'll get that on there.
So do you want to just say a date, and whatever you have by that date is what you have? And
Yeah.
otherwise you'll just move forward with what you do have? What date?
Maybe I'll,
End of this
maybe
week, or-
I'll send another reminder to all of our stakeholders, the staff again, the friends, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. I did send a reminder to everybody, right? When I sent the agenda out?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I thought I had.
and I'll set a firm deadline. You could get a couple weeks or something.
Okay. I know that they want to get going and we want a new website.
Right.
Just because we're looking at the many minutes, just seeing the safety thing out in the middle there, the crosswalk, noise, whatever, I think that's been effective. I don't know what you
I
guys
think
think.
so too. And did you notice they painted slow on both ends of the driveway?
See that, yeah.
With the meeting that we had with Town Hall, was everybody was in agreement that something needed to be done. They also, for those of you who drive through here and don't notice it, they've moved the stop sign that was facing our back parking lot. They've moved it up to the corner so that regardless of whether you're coming from the parking lot or the cemetery, you now must stop prior to pulling all the way out. It's situated so that it's not interfering with the people coming out from the other side. So it's the best spot for it. You were going to talk to
I did ask Richard to cut the tree back a little bit,
There's
which
a
I
limb
think he
that's
did.
a little in the way, but I think also people, especially people coming out of the cemetery, just don't even notice it. So I suggested if that's not being effective, because I think the place where it is will be effective, maybe we just tie some balloons to it for a couple of weeks or
Maybe
something.
they need a speed bump at the
They won't do
cemetery
speed.
exit.
I don't think they'll do speed
Even
bump.
in the cemetery, where they don't really have to plow?
You shouldn't be speeding in the cemetery anyway, but, basically, they did agree to the painting slow in the street in both directions, putting the cones out in the middle, and moving the stop sign, and then we see where that takes us. Actually, the one other thing that was pointed out to me by somebody, and I had completely overlooked, is there is no stop line down at the foot of the driveway. I'm directionally challenged.
There's a crosswalk.
There's a crosswalk and there's a stop sign, but the stop sign is actually after the sidewalk, and I have seen kids just fly past there on their bikes. So we may want to ask about them putting the stop sign before the crosswalk, or a stop line or something. I don't know if that's really our ultimate concern or not, but I don't want to see anybody get hit anywhere, so it just may be something. I may try to drop an email to the highway department and ask them if they've considered it. So
Still, that was good. It seems like
This is
everybody's
great.
responded
Yeah.
incredibly quickly
Yeah.
and positively.
And I might recommend thank yous to the appropriate departments
Yep.
from the board.
Okay.
Who wants to take that?
I can do that. I'll do it by email. Is it sufficient? Yeah.
You
Okay.
got an email from Sue Hazen, right? And that
I
was-
did. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So I'll take that. The highway surveyor actually came to the Board of Selectmen meeting as well. The Board of Selectmen had all already gone out and walked around and investigated, and so it was all
They're very receptive.
very good. Yeah.
And I know during the weekend and all that goes on, I just stood there and watched with that sign in the middle of the road there, and it was absolutely effective. Not from the fact that it says slow down, crosswalk, but there was an object in the street, I think. I don't care what the reason, but it made people slow down.
Yeah, navigating around that.
And it makes it a little more obvious that it's two-way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Even though there's not physically painted a crosswalk, it clues people in that
yeah.
there are pedestrians here.
Yeah, get over to the other
So
side,
that's
yeah,
good.
not down the middle.
Okay, is there any changes to the,
Pam, was my understanding of the printer correct? Was that a good summary? Because that was the part that I was most concerned about in terms of making sure I had the facts straight.
I'm not sure where I'm looking at the printer.
page 2?
It's a Biz Hub, B-I-Z Hub. Yes, I think that sums it up.
Okay.
Good. And just to follow up on that, I still need to call Copier Connection, who we just renewed our service contract with, and find out if we cancel that service contract on the Canon machine, will we get refunded our, prorated $600? If they won't, then maybe we slow this project down and get a little more use out of the Canon, because the state contracts aren't changing, I don't believe. I think that price is set for the fiscal year. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I think. I think that's how state contracts work. Matt, you might know.
State contracts totally unfamiliar.
Okay.
Should definitely learn more.
Well, it seems like they would be like set for that fiscal year.
They are,
Yeah.
fiscal year,
Yeah.
it's a state contract.
Yeah, so the price isn't changing, it's just a matter of, we've already paid a full year ahead to next July 1 of the service contract of this one. And if we were staying with that company, I'm sure they'd give us a credit, but since we're leaving that company altogether, they might not be amenable to a refund, in which case, we still should move forward with the Biz Hub again. that machine is old, it's not reliable, we can't get parts for it anymore, so we do need to move forward. It's just, don't necessarily need to do it right now unless we get that money back, and if we do, then there's no reason not to.
Right.
Unless, the only other thing would be if we wanted to wait and do it as a capital expense in a fiscal 16 budget, but I don't think I want to wait that long and hope for that money back when, as we discussed last time, we have it in the Bishop account, and the Bishop account is for equipment.
And it's already been approved in our last meeting.
Exactly.
All right, I don't see anything else that needs to change.
There's no motion to accept?
Can I get a second? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Director's report.
And I sent,
You guys need the director's report?
Be handy if you've got it, but.
should just give you my whole package down, so I'm making you get up.
Keep you moving.
So, circulation and patron counts are still remaining steady as we get into the new fiscal year. Although patron counts, as we've already discussed, are somewhat questionable, and we're looking into a more accurate counting method. Electronic materials continue to circulate really well. I was just at a meeting today at MVLC where we got an update on the Mass State ebook project, which just completed its pilot phase of 50 libraries, and now they're looking at models to scale it up for the state, and that would be in addition to what we now have with the vendor overdrive. But I mention that only because the director of the MLS said physical circulation is pretty level, if not dropping, and electronic circulation is, climbing, and you'll see it in the ARIS document, 600%. So,
Along those lines, but slightly off topic, are we going to offer that training or insight on how to use your devices, electronic devices again this year?
That came up at the Friends meeting last week as well. We're not completely decided yet, but we're kind of leaning towards maybe not continuing with the senior computer classes that we've been doing since 2006. This past year, attendance was not as high, and we just thought after 7 years, maybe everybody who needs that has finally completed the class. So probably the next sort of technology training we want to offer is devices. And it's complicated because they're all different. And right now we don't have a projector, so we're not doing any classes. But what we have been talking about, and this is totally stealing from other libraries who do it, is like book a librarian. Like you can,
like the Genius Bar.
Yeah, you make an appointment for a half hour or whatever, and you come in and we'll walk you through whether it's downloading ebooks on devices, it could be setting up email, it could be filling out a job application. Obviously, disclaimers that it's not, medical or legal. But, that's one way to do it. And I think right now we have the staff time, if we limit it to, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday afternoons, evenings, when Amy and I are here. But yeah, it's all, the formal classes too are always a possibility. We've done them specifically for the senior community, both here and over at the council.
I was thinking more specifically like the Kindles and the
You're thinking about like
iPads.
the Techie Tuesdays
The
that we
Techie
did after.
Tuesdays,
Yeah.
that,
Yes.
as people get their Christmas presents and their,
Yeah,
how to use the
to
library
take-
materials to get on those devices.
And it worked well when everybody just brought their stuff in. We had, we purchased some books and we kind of mucked through with them. Some people didn't even know how to navigate on their smart devices. They didn't know backwards and forwards in home, and And other people wanted advice on apps. It wasn't specifically ebooks, but we should do that. I mean, and I know for myself, I talk up the ebooks all the time. Just
And
because
I still don't know how to do it myself
Yeah.
on my devices, so.
I figured it out on the Kindle. If I can figure it out, you can figure it out.
Yeah, sure.
And I will say the Kindle is probably the easiest,
Okay.
because with Adobe, you need an Adobe password, and there's a couple more
Okay.
steps you have to do once.
Okay.
But it is a little more, like I said, steps.
Yeah.
The Kindle is very, very easy and seamless. And I tend to tell people, just get the Kindle app and make your life easier. Although, another thing that was talked about today with the ebook project is we don't want to let Amazon win. Like, there has to be other options for people, you know, in this. So, that's one reason to support the statewide project.
Will a book work?
Yeah.
To take any book out?
Not any book, but I mean, it's still a collection. It's still built by librarians. It's still paid for by librarians. It's still one book, one user model, so there's wait lists.
And it's still very product specific. If you go to take a book out, it asks you, are you downloading it to a Kindle or a book, and it may not be available for one or the other.
Sometimes you need to actually physically move it with a cable. Other times you can do it through Wi-Fi. And these are all publishers' demands, digital rights type stuff.
I had a good
All the
article
licenses
sent
are
you the other
different.
day, but I can't remember what I did with it.
But it's really growing. So.
Didn't exist 10 years ago. Well, 10 years from now, but
Exactly. Right. Going back to the report. Summer reading program was a huge success, and I didn't turn it into you guys, but I did put together a report for the friends. For the past 4 years, we've had the adult summer reading program. It's gone up each time. And we started with like 70 users who read 300 books, and it's ticked up a little bit each time to now we're 130 adults read 509 books. And I think I gave you the wrong thing.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I'm looking it out like, wait, we're not on the document yet. And then, did everybody get today? I asked Renee to give you guys a report on the Children's Youth Summer Reading Program, and she said, when's the meeting? And I said, Tuesday, and I didn't tell her, oh, but I usually give them their documents ahead of time. So that came in today. It's coming, it's coming. So they were very pleased with the success they had as well. I think they really loved the science theme. They totally ran with that and sort of pushed the learning part of it, and not so much the like rah read, but like, you know, read to learn. So that was good. And they had a display, as her name spells out, they had a display of books, and if you read so many books in the different categories, you were eligible for the prizes. So I think they spent a lot more time getting that all set up, but that they really felt like it paid off.
I'm sorry, if they read a bunch of books in a certain category, they won a prize?
There was a game board, and they had to read a book in each category and fill in the game board. Going back to adult programs, the canning, methods of modern canning, and I apologize I did not include the YouTube link, but it is on YouTube. You can find it if you go to RCM. RNC? RCM?
RCM.
RCM. And it was good to see, you know, people I didn't know, not the same old crowd. It was nice to be reaching into new demographics. And in fact, a couple of the people who were here for that were homeschoolers, and they were so excited to learn about the discovery kits.
I actually just referred those to a homeschooler today.
Oh, good.
Yeah, from Hamilton Living.
And then another project we did this month was the Day in the Life of Raleigh, which I would have liked to see more people participate in.
Still too late?
No.
It will not let me put my photos up.
Really?
No. Well, it actually won't let me sign in. I have 3 different Yahoo accounts
Yeah.
now trying to make it work, and
I know,
I'm not setting up
yeah.
any more Yahoo accounts. chance.
Okay. Someone said they weren't displaying well either, unless, and they couldn't really explain to me whether they were logged in or they weren't logged in or why they weren't displaying that. And I know there was one, for lack of a better word, crowd on Facebook that said, why did you use Flickr? I can't do it, and I don't have an account, and very...
Well, we went through that before. We were never going to find something where everyone had an account.
Right.
So,
Right.
but I do, as I say, I myself have had trouble with Yahoo just not recognizing my accounts, and I'm up to 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
And then the parade, of course, was a huge success. Thank you to everyone for your hard work on a very hot day. Much appreciated. And poor Joshua did it all in period clothing.
That's the only time it's acceptable to wear velvet pants.
on a 100-degree day, I was really feeling sorry for you over there, the black velvet. But,
Someone found the library, the Friends tent on the Commons. I get sidetracked with somebody else, and when we went back, the tent had been taken down.
Yeah, same here, I went over.
It's like, wow,
Yeah.
I don't know who did it, but boy, they just,
It was Anna and Margaret and Michelle and I did it.
okay.
In fact, we were doing it as they were setting up for the picture. We were like,
Oh, don't get me started.
yeah, that's
a-
another discussion. I saw your husband's
Oh,
to the
God.
editor.
I'm like, he's like, sign it, and I'm not signing it. He
Let him
submitted
know
a letter
this.
to the editor about his opinion on the photo being early.
I don't think it was even well announced on the Common.
And I didn't
No.
hear it.
I didn't hear it. I happened to see the crowd gathering.
We were
over
so
here.
scoffed up the family and went over.
As I was walking away, there were tons of families walking towards it, they could know that they were coming back to the
Yeah.
photo.
People would come back, or my wife.
People were sitting in the air conditioning.
We were over
Yeah,
here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of chatter on the town's Facebook page.
Well, the committee's meeting tomorrow.
Oh, okay. A wrap-up meeting?
Yes, yes.
So overall, yeah, pretty good. Great.
I thought it was a great day.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Kind
there
of
was,
different than
I need to see the
huge
parade, of
gaps,
course,
but they seem to work,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
In the parade, you mean? Yeah, people were just walking at a different pace.
Well, it's like the fire trucks just blew in here,
Mhm.
and like, we looked down, we could see everybody else, like, oh, and then it was like,
Oh,
lots of
people were
cars,
walking, yeah.
you know, and it was like, okay, there's another group behind them, and then the walkers and library folks.
someone else mentioned that to me, that
It's kind of just different, but it all worked.
Yankee Homecoming was like that, like all
the vehicles
the
probably go so
vehicles came
slow.
through.
At Yankee Homecoming, it's like a 15-minute gap.
Oh,
Michael Cohen actually helped us. He does the thing at Yankee
Yeah.
Homecoming. He came to a public, he was the, you know,
The Grand Marshal or Director.
yeah, director. So he was helpful.
Yeah, I was
And I-
worried how we're gonna know when it ends, because it seemed to end like 2 or 3 different times. You know, at this part, yeah.
But we did the library and got license.
Yes, they're like, yes, no, yeah.
So I was really pleased. I mean, 40 people came out.
It was awesome.
It was great.
Everything about it was great, like how much everybody helped and.
And the fact that we actually didn't know some of the people that were marching with us, so that's great. It
No
wasn't the
way.
same old people, you know,
Yeah,
which we
all
love,
those
the same old people.
And it was really Tim's brainchild to sort of invite the Friends membership or the newsletter membership. And how awesome is that people were like, yeah, I'll march at the library.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was nice to see a big crowd. I was like, wow.
Yeah, that was great.
You know?
So,
And the bubbles were great.
That was fun.
That was great.
were we drowning you in bubbles?
Yeah, we ate quite a few of these, but that's all we kind of
It was the
teased
only
off.
moisture.
I had to take my glasses off, they had film on them.
You probably didn't see the fire chief go by with the truck he had. They had an old physical pumper.
I saw
The
that.
two of the guys
Yeah.
who
That
were
were hosed.
drenched
Oh,
in
that,
pumping.
yeah, they were.
And Chief
Oh,
Broderick,
well.
I was like, who's the jerk spraying everybody? And it was Chief Broderick. And if they didn't have an iPhone, he drenched them.
He was welcome. It was.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah, my daughter.
That's what he said, people were
Yeah.
happy unless they had an iPhone, he was, but it didn't spray it.
Mm-hmm.
But he got a big chuckle out of that.
I believe that pumper saved the Baptist church
No way.
Really?
back in 1850 or something.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
So I heard from Bob Mary.
yeah.
Well, I know
You
if
know,
we ever
you
need
know.
another giveaway, little bags would be appreciated. My mom had to go buy a bag to contain all the candy that my nephews and my daughter got. So she went to the pharmacy and bought a purse, filled it up with candy.
I did hear that the bubbles that we gave out were very popular with adults and children alike, so that's cool too.
Well, I tried to open one up and blow bubbles as we walked, and it was too small for my fingers.
Yeah.
So,
That was a nice time.
so thank you again, and really, everybody pitched in, it was awesome. Looking forward to fall, we have Big Ryan's Tall Tales, very popular storyteller. Really just a guy and his puppets, but he makes it work.
We were so excited to see him tomorrow.
And the children's room is trying some new things this year. Of course, now we're open on Tuesday mornings, so they're going to see if some people want to have a story time on Tuesday mornings.
Is it going to be instead of or in addition
In
to?
addition to.
Okay.
But right now they do 3 in a row. They do babies, toddlers, families, and now they're splitting it up so that some things on Tuesday and the other 2 in yoga are still on Wednesday. And they're also trying some after-school clubs, which I think is fantastic. I hope it's very successful. I know for the older kids, they kind of have the schedule all mapped out of the different activities, baking and crafts and whatever else. And then with the younger kids, I think it's just sort of a higher level picture book and a craft related to the book. And then we're very excited to have Kevin Gardner here Thursday at 7 p.m.
This room, right?
In this room, yep. He has quite a local following. He does the library circuit, and his talk is very well received. Because who doesn't love stone walls, right? And I want to hear the history of them and the lore. So that would be great. And that actually, because the situation with a friend was kind of in flux while Amy was planning, she was like, what do I do, Anne? Do I plan for fall or do I not? And I said, go ahead. Hopefully the friend situation will work itself out, and if not, we'll use our discretionary money for whatever you've booked. So the library is sponsoring Kevin Gardner. The friends offered to pay half, but logistically that just seemed...
But we had to get the bill in.
Yeah, we
So
had to get the bill in
it's
anyway,
done,
so we just put the bill in. But the Friends is offering travel stipends to our 2 Topsfield Fair presenters. We're grateful for that. The second one is the Backyard Chickens talk. That's October 23rd, also at 7 p.m. And I know Amy is looking to do something for the holidays, maybe something crafty, maybe something musical, so the friends can expect her proposal when she gets some more information. Get
Sorry,
something
Backyard
lined up.
Chickens, October 3rd.
October 23rd.
23rd.
And the other one was the canning. That has already happened.
The canning. was-
7 o'clock.
Yes. And then moving on to building, some of you have been here when we've done our fun carpet cleaning. Yay, is it carpet cleaning time again? It is. Typically what we do is we schedule it for Friday when the library is closed, which means we need a group of volunteers to come in Thursday night at 8 o'clock and pick up the furniture, and then come back Saturday morning and put it back down. We do the carpet cleaning what we call Yankee style, meaning the high traffic area every year and a third of the building also each year. So the children's room, the main reading room, and then the third year we do what we call the nooks, which is everything else. The small study rooms, the offices, which is the least expensive and the most work. Because it's the staff area. I mean, go look in that staff area. I'm dreading it, but it needs it. It really does.
So when is that scheduled
I
for?
have not scheduled it
Okay.
yet. Any discussion, or should I just go ahead and let you know?
When have you scheduled in the past?
But usually we do it this time of year because summer's our busiest time. So when summer settles down is when we start thinking about it, September, October.
So the building's 10 years old, are any of the carpets need replacing?
The children's room is starting to get pulls, and I showed them to the cleaner last time he was here, and he said trim them so they don't get worse. But replacing the carpets is in our 5-year capital plan. Well, I say our 5-year capital plan. The plan I submitted to the town that may or may not get approved. Yeah,
It's online. It's in it, yes.
Okay.
yeah.
In
But
general,
I mean, I don't know how many times I've said kudos to the building committee. I can't imagine how they settled on the colors and the textures and the patterns and all the tiny little details, but they did an amazing job, and I think the carpets held up really well.
My friend was the designer on this project, so she picked out a lot of the stuff.
Really? We talked a little bit about the new website and the new technology. The technology also was from town meeting, from capital bonds. The LSTA report is next on my list. The state aid report is basically done. I need to do a final proofread. I will probably have it for you to sign when you sign the bills this week.
Okay.
And then the final item in the report is that the Tenney Foundation, who was here for the weekend. So see, that's the downside of doing the picture over, is the Tenneys were here, the Harrimans were here,
Yeah.
the Curleys were here. And I have, you can look at this letter. But basically, they've created a foundation, like the Tenney family is a 501c7, and they created this other foundation. And they're just started. They haven't, they kind of at the place where before we can really start fundraising in earnest, we sort of need some projects to sell to our donors. So they asked for a meeting while they were in town for the reunion and basically asked what are the needs. Looking townwide, we talked about the Samuel Phillips diary, which I guess is pretty well set as far as digitized, transcribed, etc. We also talked about the cemetery commission is now working on a database because right now all the records are on paper. And so they have actually a senior tax credit volunteer working on the data entry on that. So that might be something.
One of the things that you and I talked about was completing the indexing of the old town reports.
Yes.
So the Tenney family is looking to make an investment in
They've asked us,
historical
their mission, which is described more in the document than it has, they want to assist communities, groups, and families in discovering their heritage or provide more secure and lasting preservation of archival material. And I think it was just happenstance that they turned to us for ideas. Like I said, they were here and asked for the meeting and said, what kinds of things could you do with, say, a $500 grant? So I think, and it kind of fit in for two reasons. One, Janet's been hosting a genealogy club for close to a year now, maybe
Since January.
So that's one thing we can certainly build on, the interest. And the second thing is that we just had a volunteer do a complete inventory of the local history room. Everything is now cataloged, accounted for, so labeled. So the next step from his work would be making those items more accessible. For example, a lot of them are digitized already, the vital records, etc. You know, collecting the digital documents in some kind of web guide would be a logical next step. So I don't know if we are looking to ask for a stipend for someone to do some labor, or maybe to come in and do a genealogy class. And I know we've talked to at least one person who does that.
We also, as far if you're sticking with the genealogy thing, we've also talked about, this would be tricky because it's a one-shot deal. Money is a one-shot deal, but we've also talked about getting subscriptions to some of the genealogy databases.
Right. And I'm not sure that's something they can then go back to their donors and say, like,
right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That would be tricky for this particular purpose,
Yeah.
for sure.
But we should certainly give it some attention and not leave them, you know, waiting too long.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's actually something that we should give ourselves a deadline for. But also we should decide, should this be like an outreach committee thing, or do we want to just talk about it?
I'm kind of looking at you because you're the genealogy person.
Well, that's true, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a genealogy project. I don't
Right,
want to hog it. I would love
right.
to have it. And,
It
you know,
could
I'll find a
be-
purpose for it, believe me.
Yeah, it could be just a more general, you know, the local history collection enhancement.
Did you happen to ask Otto at all what he would feel is like a good next step for the collection?
We haven't really talked about it.
No.
He finished the scope we gave him and said, I'm going to take a few weeks off, but I'll be back to volunteer some more.
Okay. He just got back from vacation. So.
Okay. Yeah, so Amy and I did talk a little bit about what he could do next before we have this meeting with the tennies.
Okay.
Do we have a meeting, so we don't have a meeting on the calendar?
No.
Okay.
No.
But that's the action item, is put a meeting on the calendar.
Right, so that we, and come up with something to discuss at that meeting.
Mhm.
I do really like the idea of finishing the indexing of the town reports.
Yeah,
Because I think that's really great to be able to go in and look up. I've spent many hours transcribing what my family is in there.
does anybody know, is Winnie Jarvis still around?
She's in Kingston?
Okay, so she's not that far.
Winnie Jarvis is the volunteer who started the indexing of the town reports. But she's since moved out of town. But she did many, many volunteer hours for us.
Yeah, she did a lot, she did a lot for the Friends. Was she president of the Friends for a while then? Or she might have been trustee chair for a while.
She was VP of the Friends,
VP, and she did some grant writing.
and she was a trustee.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's been very active for a long time, or was.
She was at the parade.
Was she? Oh, I wish I'd seen her with Jackie too.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I can reach out and see if she can come give us a little training. I mean,
On what she
it's
did.
in Access. Was it you I was talking to?
Yeah.
And I was like, nobody knows how to use Access. And Jared said, I do. Okay,
And
well.
Otto does.
And Otto does.
Yeah.
So that might be the next thing for Otto. And, Otto's been working for a while as a volunteer. It doesn't mean we can't offer him a stipend. Keep going.
To do a specific project, and then we
Right.
can still volunteer. But anyway,
Right.
so
You're gonna outsource this to the subcommittee?
there was, I can't remember whether there was something I was going to outsource to the subcommittee, and I don't know what. I'm happy to be part of this discussion. We're not on that subcommittee, so I don't know if we want to.
The outreach committee?
That's-
I'd love to have you. It's Michelle and myself.
It's
I
just you two?
remember
I
last
thought
time.
there was more than that.
I think it's Maggie as well.
Okay.
I don't know if I have the updated document right handy as to who's on it, but, so let's do that, and, John, can you, since I'm not officially on the subcommittee, can you send out a meeting request
Sure.
for that subcommittee? All right.
I guess I should have said, as I'm just glancing at this again, on the carpet cleaning, I don't know that it will be 17 cents a square foot again this year. And they tend to be very good to us, and they don't increase often.
You say you need volunteers to help move
Stuff.
equipment or just
Well-
furniture?
Chairs up off the floor, most of the computers are in brackets now, but not all of them, so that is like the wires, and the computer goes up. In my office and Hermane's office, there's just a
Boxes and
stuff,
this.
storage on
When do you need it done? During the day, in the evening?
Thursday when we close at 8, and then Saturday before we open at 10.
Okay. I'm just thinking of the Boy Scouts, that would be a good project for Boy Scouts. Talk to Judge Bazenka. Get
It's,
big, strong kids.
that's a great plan for some of this stuff. The problem is space. If there's only so many that can fit under Pam's desk to move the stuff out from under there. But if we could get an assembly line going, maybe.
Yeah, and I'll say too, anytime we've done it in the past, it goes quicker than you expect it to, even with 5 or 6 people helping.
This is, as you mentioned before, this is kind of the messiest one because it's more stuff.
Yeah.
When we have to do,
The reading room is easy.
the
It's
reading room
just
is easy,
stacks.
just putting chairs up and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
But little things like, the flag and the coat hanger and just like everything
it has to come off the floor.
has to come off.
So. But once we know the date, could be worth it, certainly.
Okay, so can we take that as an action item that you're gonna put the carpet cleaning on the calendar?
Yes.
It's not only the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts may want to help, or, I don't know if Mobile Glass is still in, but the 10th grade students doing confirmation at the Catholic Church are always looking for a service project. So there's, you can just say, give you the 6 most reliable type of deal, or, other groups, but I'm sure there's probably a few more that would step up.
anyone
So
have
you'll
any?
schedule a carpet cleaning and send out an email with us.
Do you have a preference of who's done it in the past, the friends or just? whoever-
Trustees.
Yeah,
Trustees.
the trustees have?
It's not that bad, it's like, I did it
It's
last
like
time.
20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
It's almost not even worth having like a ton of kids to come in.
Yeah.
And the other concern is, getting everything off the carpet is fine, putting the library back together is a little more,
Mhm.
Definitely Pam's direction as to where it came from.
yes.
Okay. Thursday nights are usually pretty good. Third Thursdays of the month is usually, beyond that, usually pretty good.
Yeah, like, you know, if you get a handful of trustees and sometimes they bring spouses or children or helpers.
It does go pretty quickly.
Yeah, nice one, the same size as you.
Does anyone have any questions on Pam's report?
I move to accept Pam's to the director's report.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
All right,
Anyone opposed? Thank you. We could look at Pam's budget. You're looking at the 15 tab. If it didn't open to that tab, then you're looking at it electronically.
The electric bill is high again, the bill that came today, I guess, but not abnormally so. Oh, and it's not reflected in this budget, which I printed out last week. But we are at like 72% remaining for the light bill, and we're a quarter of the way through the fiscal year, and we're also coming off of our our cooling season, so they go down over the winter months.
Did we get the, this isn't actually in the budget, but did we get the reimbursement money for the leak repair?
That didn't, I mean, that was in the previous fiscal year, and that was just a reserve fund transfer.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's all set.
Yeah. But this repair, this budget reflects the $600 HVAC repair that we needed to do, the compressor blower in the local history room.
All right. There's another 600. But it's much more comfortable in there.
There were a couple of days that I questioned. I mean, I guess when it's 90 degrees, it's just hard to get the building to 72. It kind of stalls out at like 76.
That feels pretty good if it's 98.
Right.
So.
But obviously we'll keep an eye on it, and if it's not comfortable, staff and patrons, then we'll have it looked at again. But anytime I've questioned it, you know, the next day it seemed normal again, so. And I never did follow up with the question of whether the thermostats are the correct ones for the system or not. I have to put that back on my to-do list.
I'm sorry, what was that? We have an action item?
I think it's left over from last month's action items was to follow up with Morris Heating and Air, because when the technician was here, he sort of haphazardly mentioned that we have the wrong kind of thermostats and didn't explain very well what was wrong with them. And I haven't seen a quote from the senior technician explaining what they would do to resolve it.
So you'll take that back?
Yes.
Are we, looks like to me we're in pretty good shape in here. When does the HVAC service contract be paid?
That usually comes in January-ish. And that sometimes goes up 3% or so, sometimes it doesn't. I think last year's was $25.50, and I just factored in the percentage increase, which may or may not be realized.
Anybody have any questions on the budget?
I'm going to accept the budget report.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Do you want to go straight on to the summary of 514?
Yeah, did you want it, if you're talking about the other documents I sent with the report? Or what are you talking
I
about?
was talking about the other Excel document specifically to start with.
Yes, the errors report.
The errors report,
Which
yeah.
I think, is that what I gave Tim as the first time?
Circulation, interlibrary loan.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what you have, Tim? The one that Pam gave you by mistake?
The first, oh, should I give that back?
So the errors report we do every year, it's all the statistics we have to report to the state. And,
Does it look like that one?
yeah.
I
So-
can't split that part.
There's 4 pages. The first page is a summary. The second page is more detail on holdings, and the third page is more detail on circulation, and the final page is details on services. And the thing, and I also sent the email from Moite at the Board of Library Commissioners questioning, hey Pam, your non-resident circulation went up over 20%. That automatically triggers a review because it's real cash money from the state, like part of the formula of state aid is non-resident circulation. Non-resident circulation is people with not a rally card coming physically to our building and taking items out, whether they have their network transfers sent here or they're physically taking our items. This is good news. This means Raleigh is a destination. I was thrilled to have that brought to my attention. And I did do a little investigating as to why, and that is another bunch of documents I sent you. And mostly it was Dave at Merrimack Valley Library Consortium who kind of parsed out. Well, I asked him, is it all on Wednesday? Is it all our storytime guests? And while Wednesday is our biggest day, it doesn't explain it completely. Mondays are just as high, Thursdays are just as high. We also looked at what towns are they coming from. The highest is Newberry, I should say the highest increase is Newberry, followed by Amesbury, then Andover, then Boxford. Boxford, for example, the individual circulations were 67 in fiscal 13 and 286 in fiscal 14. Now that might be one person,
Right.
Coming twice a week or once a week or whatever. West Newbury is another one that had a big jump, and Ipswich and Salisbury. Salisbury is not surprising because they're in a temporary location, but that hasn't been the case for the whole fiscal year. That's pretty new. The thing that jumps out at me for these towns is they're all older buildings. Well, Newbury has funny hours, but Amesbury and Boxford and West Newbury are all quite older buildings.
Boxford has been trying for quite a while for a new library and
They
without
have.
much luck.
Yeah.
The library is fairly crowded.
We also have parking. Newbury has parking, but who can house, and we have parking.
Mhm.
And I know people from Ipswich, just stand in the middle with 2 people, said, well, I don't use Ipswich and I can't park there.
Right.
So,
And I asked the staff, what scuttlebutt have you heard on the street, as it were? And they said Topsfield and Ipswich, and Georgetown. Which, we have strong showing from Georgetown, but it's consistent. It hasn't gone crazy up this year.
I like the Ipswich Library, but a woman who came to the genealogy club said she always comes to Raleigh, she never goes to the Ipswich, and she's from Ipswich.
Mm-hmm.
So
why did she do
she just doesn't care for it for whatever reason, especially the history resources, which I don't know. I think once I've been to their history room a long time ago, so I can't speak to them, but I've always, if I've had to go to the library for whatever reason, when I worked in Ipswich, that was fairly frequent. I thought it was a nice library.
I bet you there's part of Ipswich that are closer to this library.
Yeah.
Because Ipswich is so weirdly
Yeah.
shaped, for lack of a better
I think
term.
that's.
If I walk in my backyard far enough, I'm in Ipswich.
Mhm. I think
You
there are a
should
lot of
lost,
people who
though.
are closer.
Yeah.
And the same can be said for Newbury, their libraries all the way out in Byfield, and their hours are, they're better now because they were limited for a long time.
So it's great news for us. It would be
Yeah.
interesting to know why, but
Well, as Dave said, the data is anonymized, so we can't say, oh, it's that one family, or, you know,
Right.
it could very well be.
Yeah, homeschooling, it could be
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, that begs the question, or should we expand our friends' reach to people from non-Rowley residents? To make them feel more welcome and to be part of supporting the place they like to use?
So before any event that's sponsored by the Friends, they get a sales pitch. So anyone who came from out of town to that event is encouraged to join the Friends. We also have the membership.
It's
The
not.
Membership
membership drive
yes.
is local, it's restricted to Rowley. We
That is
haven't
actually-
expanded beyond.
Sorry, one of the things we talked about, and I don't think it happened this year, but when we were doing the mailing this year, we also talked about the fact that the renewal letter, or the membership letter, I should say, goes out to town residents without us reviewing the database to find out, because we know that we get memberships from
Handful,
Ipswich, Newbury,
yeah.
whatever. We've been remiss in going back and looking up people who don't live in town and sending them a renewal.
Because they're just printed, it just says postal patron.
Right.
So we would have to do a mail merge to mail specifically to those out-of-towners.
Is there a rule that we can't, or we just
No.
haven't?
No, we just have not thought to do it, and this year it came up in conversation after the fact, basically, so.
One of the things we're looking at is the fact that, you know, we send out to 1,700 households or something like that, and we have 127 members. So the yield has not been great. So I think what we want to do is maybe divert some money into more email membership outbounds and cut back on the hard mailings and save some money there. And personalize the renewals and try to build it up that way. But, you know, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I don't know if out-of-towners think to join the Rowley Friends, but they might.
They do get a $2 discount on the yoga classes.
Oh, yeah.
So I know not all the yoga students are residents, and they are good about renewing, because they know.
Because they know.
They know that's their perk.
Right.
They get to go to the book sale.
Book sale or
Extra
early-
early.
And oftentimes when we have people come to some of our functions, they say, oh, what can I do? Like, can I make a donation? You can join the Friends.
You know when I heard that a lot was at the jazz brunch.
Yeah.
People were so thrilled, and they were like, well, first they thought they had to pay, and then they're like, I don't, can I make a donation?
Maybe we should, as you're looking at activities for December, maybe doing something similar to that.
A holiday jazz brunch.
A holiday jazz.
We have for the past 2 years also done a staff appreciation luncheon. I don't know if we maybe want to combine those.
Yeah.
That's a thought.
Why not let the
Recognition for the
community
staff,
appreciate the staff? Or find ways to show appreciation to the staff? Hmm?
There you go, Outreach Committee.
I'm on it.
So I'll run that idea by Amy as she's doing the research on sort of a holiday concert idea.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of those schools would be interested.
Is there anything else you want to point out on the ERS?
I was just gonna kind of sum up the ebooks, which I threw out a number before. So the ebook circulation increased 17%, so not extreme. Last year, the first year that Kindle was participating in Overdrive, it was an extreme jump.
That's still good. I'll take 17%.
Absolutely. And, the other thing is, the Board of Library Commissioners does not count Freebill downloads as circulations.
Hold on, though. You're looking at the 17% as holding circulation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
61%.
You're right, I was on the completely wrong page.
Okay, wait, ebooks increased 61% or
Ebook circulation.
Circulation, 61%.
I'm glad to see the museum passes also on.
Yeah, whereas total circulation was down almost at 1%. Is that right? No, it's up by less than 1%. And that is not the figure that I gave you guys at the end of the fiscal year, because I count free bills. I think we bought that person that song, that's a circulation. Board of Library Commissioners says no.
Well, then it should be, here's what we are, asterisks.
It's, I say, it's interesting that it's, because there aren't that many, the only really large negative number is electronic, like video games, plays, things like that.
That's a negative number.
That's a negative number. There's a couple others that are small, but to offset that 61%, and then several other positives, there's another one that's 37.5.
And I think last year was maybe the first year we had the game cartridges, the Wii and the PS2 and the Xbox. That's only 2 or 3 years old that we've had those, because it was, I remember Rob cataloged most of them. So it could just be that the thrill of that is worn off a little bit.
Or people don't know.
Or people don't have it there.
I didn't know. I guess I'm happy.
Yeah,
Xbox
the systems have
360.
changed, that's just the thing, the
True.
360 is gone.
I just bought some PS4 games
Right,
the other
PS3 is
day.
already down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to keep up with, but
Yeah,
not everybody ditches their system right away either,
Right.
so.
right. And I think a lot of people just do apps now,
Yeah.
more so than the consoles.
Yeah.
Is consoles even the right word? Is that what I mean?
It's gone.
System.
System, yeah.
Console.
When I said console, I thought I was talking about Atari or something.
Careful, showing your age.
So amended to before when I was looking at the wrong page, the downloadable audio books that we get from Overdrive, the circulation increased 37.5%. And the ebooks downloaded from Overdrive increased 61%. So that's just documents what I was mentioning earlier, that
It's huge.
while everything else is sort of leveling off,
Yeah.
the electronic content is going up.
You're still waiting to put in the computer use in meeting rooms on this?
No?
I have no numbers in there, under services.
And services? Well, I didn't put in the individual. I didn't break
Oh, just
out.
the total.
Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't break out the meeting room use
I see
by
that,
which
yeah.
one, I don't,
Okay. I didn't catch that the totals were there.
sorry. So, these things are in flux. The number of events we have, we did a lot this year, we did rally reads. The reference transactions, that can vary hugely. It's been anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000 in the past few years, and I've explained before that in capturing that, we do a sample, we do hash marks, we count on staff remembering what they did over the past hour.
Yeah. Do we know why the volunteers are?
I was just gonna say, where did the volunteers go?
It could, we count every volunteer, like everyone who moves a box of books at the book sale, everyone who, we didn't have a chili cook-off this year.
Good point,
Right,
that's
that's
huge.
one thing.
Yep, that's a huge dip right there.
That's easily those 20 people.
Yep, easily. Okay.
We actually just, this is off topic, but we just started a senior tax credit worker yesterday. Her name's Rita Brochu. She normally gets her hours in the assessor's office, but apparently the new administrative assistant at the assessor's office is so efficient that they have no work for their senior tax credit volunteer. So,
Another meeting, other group, there's another meeting.
now she needs to get her 93.5 hours before mid-November. So it's like 8 or 9 hours a week for the next 10 weeks.
Okay.
She came in Monday, we had her checking in books. We're gonna, hopefully, my goal with agreeing to do this kind of on no notice whatsoever is I'm hoping that we can give Rita some tasks that free up a little bit of Amy's time. Amy has a tremendous backlog of books to catalog in there, and I say Amy, but I do the cataloging as well. But we're just really far behind. I mean, the bestsellers go out the door, but we just got a set of half the states, and they kind of
signing the bills on that.
yeah, they sat for. In fact, they sometimes sit unopened in their boxes for a few days, and then they sit in the tech services room for a few days, and then the various processes that have to happen eventually happen. But she has a big backlog of donations. Unless it's like, ooh, this is an awesome donation, we have to add it to the collection. If it's like, this is nice, I'm gonna pull it out of the book sale, I think we might want it, those tend to sit. So, and that's part of the reason why I'm exploring asking the town for an administrative assistant.
And how's that going?
That is, well, I wasn't doing anything over the summer, I was waiting for the fall. We need to put together, we sort of need to go into the meeting with a personnel board prepared, meaning we need a tentative job description, a task list, a suggested hours per week.
So Reed is kind of a good way of testing those waters, of what she's capable of.
We'll see, yeah, we'll
What can be
see
leveraged off.
what we can, you know, the other thing we talked about is, well, we have her for 10 weeks, we're gonna spend all this time training her, and then, you know, we have her for 10 weeks, but we kind of decided that it's worth it to give it a try, yeah.
Do we need a motion to accept the ARIS report?
I don't think so, no, it's really informative for us. When it's complete, I'll need to sign it. and Pam
Oh,
needs
no,
to
it's
sign
already been turned in.
it. Oh, this one's been turned
This,
in?
yeah, this is just a summary for you guys. The
Okay.
ARIS has been turned in. And the state aid is
I did
all,
sign it when you were
yeah, the
signing it
state
now.
aid is all financial. No, I'll give you it. It's basically, well, it's how we figure out our MAR and our TAMI, and we have to prove compliance, which is our materials expenditure. So we have to break down everything we've spent, where it came from, where it's going, and then it's, 8 pages worth of fun numbers.
Did we accept the budget?
Yes, we do.
So, is there anything, because we have already actually talked about this in the course of other things, is there anything outstanding on the 375th that we need to recap?
Well, there's a meeting tomorrow, which was billed as a hopefully final wrap-up meeting, but there is some controversy about the picture, that there's kind of a call for a redo on the picture, so that's going to be discussed. And I think there's a few more budget items to wrap up. But no, I think finally after 2 years that committee's over, just in time for us to start planning the library's 125th anniversary in 2016.
Those people have so much free time.
I don't think you're going to get that. You said anything on that one.
No, but we should kind of think about how do we format that planning? Do we have an ad hoc committee, a group of working interested parties?
See what we
Not that far away.
No, it's not. We need to start on it pretty quickly to be thinking about it, please.
When is it? Is it 2015?
2016.
So. All right, we talked about the website updates. There really aren't any until people send in their notes. Subcommittee assignments will have to roll once again, because the folks that aren't on one aren't here again. Building and grounds, we talked about the painting bid and the pedestrian crossing. So the AV, there are a couple people who had action items on that.
Yeah, I talked to the vendors about that, and CCS, that 80-inch NEC, that's just, the price disparity between that and the other Sharp, and my concern with the Sharp, I talked to the vendor, seemed to make the case that it's probably the right one. He said he went through it, knows what we want. I said, it's not just for static displays, and he said, no, there's HDMI ports, et cetera, et cetera. I think it is a 60 megahertz refresh rate, and he just was adamant that would work. So, that was the preferred vendor, single source, and also the best price.
So we're comfortable with that. After your discussion with him, we're comfortable with that.
Yeah, we've had more time to go out afield and go to polls and
Yeah, right.
every place else, but there's just no bid.
No.
But from talking to the two,
Okay.
that was it.
So what do we need to do final?
We need to pull up that bid so we have the exact amount. Do you have it right there?
Yeah, just one quick question again. Can we talk about putting on that wall?
Yes.
Was Was there any reason for that?
Well,
Why?
we did discuss that wall, which is wider, has more
Yeah.
room. But we just felt like this is the front of the room. The kitchen's in the back and the screen is in the front.
Yeah, because if you're putting a whole bunch of people in the
Yeah, you
room.
definitely want it north-south, but my only question was, I think the AV cabinet is inside
Yeah,
there.
everything goes through the ceiling.
Would it have been any more cost-effective to just?
The cable's already there. I mean,
Okay.
You gotta recable otherwise.
but it's already been stained.
Okay, good. Just a
Do you have the bid?
scratch and.
John does.
Oh, yeah.
So are we moving to accept the bid?
Unless anybody has, I hope, no further discussion, but if anyone does, we need to have it, so.
Single source.
I also lesson learned from this, the next time we have anything large like this, I think it would be best to set up a subcommittee and have them answer all these questions. This has gone on for, what, 6 months now? And come to the board with a recommendation, because it's been good discussion, I think, but having 9 people discuss it instead of having 2 or 3 discuss it and follow up on it, I think was not our most efficient move.
And the 9 people might have questions, but the 2 or 3 people have already discussed and
Right.
resolved them.
Right,
Yeah.
so I think it might have gone faster had we done that up front, but anyway.
And the other thing is we do have to do a little electrical work on this wall first. We're losing those sconces and we're losing that display case.
Display
the
area.
art molding thing. But that's the trade-off to have a screen versus a projector.
And then obviously there aren't that many exhibits we have that we need all of the space in.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, single source contract, the equipment materials was 6,341, spot 54.
6,000,
Oh, 341,
41, 64.
54.
Are you okay making the motion?
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
so I make a motion to
We just-
accept single sources bid at 6,341.54. Oh, whoa, whoa,
No,
whoa.
because it's not 8,000,
I
Yeah.
forgot to turn it over.
It's
It's
the
like,
labor's on the other page, yeah.
recorrection, 8,191.54.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
All right.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Is this Emerson because it's a building improvement? Or is it Library9 because it's technology?
We talked about that last month, and I don't think we came to a decision, because we got hooked up on there. What does everybody think? We have traditionally used Ligmag for electronics, like computers, things like that, but the Emerson Fund is a building fund.
Well, we sort of
Well, we decided
decided
it was more of a building
building
fund.
fund.
Does anyone have a preference which fund it comes out of?
I'd say technology, personally.
This is
Link,
the state aid
LAG,
money.
MEJ.
MEG?
It's
LIG.
library incentive grant and municipal equalization grant. It's the state aid money, which is about $5,000 a year.
We usually do LIG/MEG.
LAG/MEJ.
Okay. Very good. That's been a long time around.
Actually, I got an email today from a Girl Scout leader who was like, "Oh, we showed a DVD and your color seems a little off. Did you know this?"
No, really?
We did indeed.
Little off. 10 years out of that equipment, it's pretty good.
So, the outreach committee has the 10 thing to discuss. I can't remember whether Michelle said there was something else going on there.
There's a few things.
Okay.
Rally reads.
Yeah, the next book.
Oh, right, the new rally reads,
Yeah.
okay.
Are we
Policy, I'm
something?
dropping the ball on that one. Joshua, I think you're on the policy committee with me? Yeah, so we need to get going on that too. Disaster
did you-
recovery, have you,
I'm dying.
what's that?
I'm on it, but I haven't done anything.
Okay. I think it's probably not a bad plan to revisit that and get it going again. Erin started out really strong with it for a while, but just hasn't had the time to put into it either. So if you can at least give it a look and sort of see what our next steps
You sent it
are.
all to me to have it.
I did, yeah.
Yep, so what do you want, just a review?
Just see where we are and see what our next steps need to be.
I'm sorry, what was your action?
Disaster planning.
Mhm.
Next year and recommend. Disaster recovery, sorry. Planning, we're good. When do we need to revisit the one-year plan?
The action plan will be due to the Board of Library Commissioners December 1st.
Okay, so then we need to
So we'll
get talking
It
about that.
needs to be approved at the November meeting at the latest.
So then you and I and whoever else need to meet. Can you set that meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you send me an email about your review?
Oh, I was supposed to print out 2 copies for us
Yeah.
to sign today. I did not do that.
Okay. I'll be around. I'll be down back to sign the bills.
Yeah, sorry.
Report from the Friends meeting. Sorry, I'm trying to readjust my brain back a week.
Our
Tim,
new president is here.
Yeah, Tim actually is the president of the Friends, for those who did not know that. We talked about the investment, the Friends investment fund.
Talked about the cultural council
right,
grants
we're
for
gonna
the museum
Re-up the
passes.
museum passes and
That's
such.
underway.
Paperwork
Jean's
needs to
doing
get
that.
done, yeah.
The chili cook-off due to St. Mary's sadly will most likely be postponed till spring. We simply don't have time to pull that together for November.
And there's still some debate about whether it should be at Governor's again or move back to St. Mary's.
It's always also going to depend on availability for either location.
How much space do you need?
More than pretty much any venue in town,
There's
yes.
300 guests typically, so
Yeah.
it wasn't the country club one time, and
Yeah,
it was
really.
squished, and
Then they wrote the country
yeah, it's
club.
not even
They
there
tore it
now.
down sadly. now.
What about if we did it in the summer and put up a tent?
We've actually
On the
talked about
farms.
that, but summer isn't really chilly time either. You know, do we want to be under a tent with 20 people running sterno, you know, eating hot chili?
Yeah.
and-
What about pie? Is that a chili?
Oh, we did a pie thing one year.
The chili cook-off had a pie sideline one year. I was not part of it at the time, but
That
it sounds
was
like
the
it was
one at the country
complicated.
club. That was the first one I went
It
to.
was a little bit too much maybe in one event. I don't know, I wasn't at that one, but that was pre my time. Anyway, so we talked about that. We talked about, what else did we talk about?
Fall programming.
Fall programming, right? So the Friends are supporting the canning program that already happened and the chickens that are coming up in October.
And fundraising.
And fundraising in
Tim had
general.
some ideas on new sort of strategies.
Right. So, those meetings are the Tuesday before this meeting. Again, anybody who is willing to attend is welcome. As trustees, we can't actually vote at those meetings, but we can certainly contribute. So
it's.
they are the second
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah, at 7 p.m. Usually here in the small marsh room, but if we have too many people for that room, it can be moved.
And they can really use some fresh blood. If you can recruit anyone to help out at either on various events or just planning in general or fundraising, it's kind of the same few people and we don't want them to burn out and go away.
For sure. That's all the items we had on the agenda.
We skipped over one thing on buildings and grounds, and that is the,
Oh, you're right, sorry.
Sprinkler.
The sprinkler system,
so
I'm sorry.
at 10 years, the sprinkler heads need to be tested. I was under the impression that it was a quarter of them, 25% of the building. I'm not sure that's accurate, I need to check with Chief Broderick. But we have the quote from New England Fire and Sprinkler Protection, recommended by Joshua, who does all the work at the banks.
Sorry, the name again?
New
New England Fire and Sprinkler Protection, Inc.
Thank you.
A nice big font.
Thank you.
That's them, not me.
Ted came out, we walked around, we looked at the building. The quote is for $2,800 to do 4 sprinkler heads and an additional $100 for each additional sprinkler head, and then is the labor in addition to that? No, additional service requirements. They're just letting us know that they're per hour labor fee if there's additional service requirements.
You sent us the quote.
Mhm.
I sent the quote, yes. So if in fact we need to do 25% of the building, that's about 25. I mean, I walked around, I didn't get into every nook and cranny, but I think there's about 100. I mean, just look up here, there's 8 in this room alone. There's a lot. So I don't know if he settled on the number of 4 because you sort of take one from each location in the building.
So what's the testing consist of? It's a pressurized system, right?
So the $2,800 is just to test those 4?
4.
Correct? Okay,
Yes.
that's what I thought.
So they take the sprinkler head out, obviously they have to replace it with something, and then they take the sprinkler off site and they test it. And if they all work, you're good for another 5 years or whatever. But if some of them don't work, then I think you need to do either more testing or more replacements.
So we don't really need to do anything until you talk to Chief Broderick, right? To
That
find
is
out this is the
correct.
correct approach.
Yes.
Okay, so,
And we may want to talk to other vendors. I mean, this one came referred to by a trusted source, but it's not a bad idea to always get more quotes.
right, but that's a pretty well-known name too.
Mhm.
But certainly, we can figure that out. But first, we really need to know what it is we're asking, so first.
And whether we're doing it this fiscal year or next fiscal year. If it's next fiscal year, perhaps it's a capital item.
True, right. Okay. Are you okay with calling Chief Broderick, or do you need somebody from the building committee to?
I can do that.
To remember to open this up.
Are we out of any kind of code right now for not having it tested? And
It's the
Right.
FPA, yeah.
affects insurance, and if we could have a fire, we're not keeping first.
No, it's just
You know,
NFPA
it's-
25 lays out the requirements, and I think I looked it up and sent that out a couple of meetings ago.
I wonder if Mia could help at all. I don't know. The Massachusetts General
Oh.
Insurance Agency.
Sorry, okay.
I don't know if they get involved in things like that. You would think they would.
They should certainly be able to answer questions about it.
Right.
So, if that's a good
Mhm,
approach.
mhm.
Chief Broderick should be able to answer it, I
Yeah.
think.
And I did talk to Deb Egan about this, just put the bug in her ear that, oh, this is gonna be coming, by the way, and it's gonna be a lot more than you think it should be.
Well, the town hall must have to go through this.
They probably don't have a dry system.
Oh, good point. Okay. Good point. Older building,
I'm
okay.
sure they're retrofitted.
Yeah. All right, so then the next steps on that is Chief Broderick and see where we go from there.
So anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't make copies of this quote, but the description is, supply and install materials in order to test floor joint sprinkler heads to include the following. A, they have to pull a permit. B, they have to remove the heads, provide temporary coverage. And C, they have to then replace the heads that they destroy.
And that, the 4 replacement heads, which for others would be 200 each, is included in the 2,800.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And she did email that to everybody if you want to look at it in more detail. Okay. Again, I think this time that really is everything we had on the agenda. Sorry, I skipped that.
Yeah, I just want to mention one thing, is I went to training last Thursday night.
Oh, you
yeah,
did go.
went to
Very
the
good.
Orientation, it was roasting in the room, and I was a little bit late. But I got a lot of good information about various resources that we have in the, within the state for different items. And I got a big packet of material that I meant to bring with me, that I can send out about, just about taking the time to evaluate ourselves as a board annually. What are our plans? What are our directions? Defining our goals. Some insights into like open meeting law and how some challenges that we have as a board to that. I'm desperate to remember. One of the big things that she wanted to emphasize is if there is any change to our charter as a town, that it would be very important for a member of the trustees, library trustees, to be involved in that process of rewriting the charter, because it could have impact on funding from the state.
I don't think we're in that position, but good to
Like
know.
joining back to England, like we're
No,
are
just
we
changed
talking
their
about?
charter, their
Like,
town
go
charter.
from a board, go from town meeting to a
Yeah,
mayor or something
okay,
like
okay.
that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that they just, I don't know, it's one of those things that they just kind of threw all these random bits of information at us. It was like, oh, you know, I'll write that down. So I can scan some of the documents and send it out. There were some great, you know, resources, websites, listservs that would be available. I really wish that, I went to the meeting a little bit late, but there's tons of trustees from all the libraries, and there was no opportunity for us to really talk to one another or find out what other libraries were doing or best practices.
There is a listserv that the Board of Library Commissioners maintains specifically for that.
For the trustees,
Yeah.
yes, and they have this great sheet that I'll definitely send out that you can sign up for various listservs. I guess there's a certain listserv that only you can submit our names to get on. But I'll send that to you.
Okay.
Anyway, it was interesting. I think it was worthwhile. That's all.
That was years ago.
And that was MLS for that, right?
MLS,
Yeah.
So I knew lots of new Facebook pages that I'm getting in my feed of what's going on in libraries in Massachusetts and nationally. It's interesting. Motion to adjourn?
Can we review quickly the action items and will you send them out after?
Sure.
Oh wait, I have one other thing to share. I don't know, I'm sure maybe you've heard there is a new school in Raleigh. The Clark School has moved here from Beverly, and we have had 2 inquiries already about their students using our resources.
Great,
So that's exciting.
great.
I think they're coming for a visit this week, one of the classes. They're small classes. The K1 group is 8 students, and I think they're the ones who are booked to come. I was out of the office today, I went to that meeting in FAOC, but I guess they're interested in getting library cards for their students, which I don't think we can do.
Parents have to do that.
Yeah, so we'll have to talk more about that. I'll get back today with a message when I go back from the meeting, but I was just
Nice.
thrilled that they're, you know,
Make sure they all get library friends at the library.
Parents all become friends.
While their parents
Yes.
are here, right?
yeah, but you know what, on that note, the children's room also has good relationship with many of the preschools in town, and those kids, they bring their parents later after they come with their class.
Yeah.
It's all positive.
Good.
So, you want me to run through the action items?
If you could.
Okay. Janet will send thank yous on behalf of the trustees to the selectmen and police department for their rapid response to our safety concerns
And highway.
and
Yeah.
highway.
Thank you.
Pam will reach out to Copy Connection to see if we can get our maintenance contract and have it prorated. And if we can't get out of there, we'll probably just take our time a little bit in replacing the biz hub. Is that accurate? Okay. Action. Oh, Maggie needs to upload pictures to Twitter. Pam will set up a meeting with the Tenney Family Foundation. She'll also reach out to Winnie Jarvis for some training or guidance. John will send out a meeting request for outreach committee meeting.
Make sure you specify which John.
John Nick, kind of listed here at the moment, as opposed to J-Man. Pam will schedule carpet cleaning and send out an email to get it on everyone's schedule to volunteer. It's the nooks and crannies this time. Pam will follow up with Morris Heating and Air. I will start thinking about working on mentioning to our outreach committee the possibility of a holiday jazz brunch and combining that with the staff appreciation event. John, my note here just says action. John Manning, discover disaster recovery recommended.
Review, disaster recovery review.
Review. Thank you. Will you make a recommendation at the next meeting,
I'll make a
or you'll
report.
just write us some? Okay.
I'll make a report.
need?
Pick a resort.
Let's see, one-year plan needs to be approved by the November meeting, so the directive is for Janet to make sure that it's on the November agenda.
And Pam just
Yeah,
had a
we
meeting.
need
to set up a
a
meeting to
subcommittee
discuss.
meeting to update the action plan before that happens.
Pam will contact Chief Broderick to define what it is we really need to do with the sprinklers. Did I miss anything?
I'm also going to accept single sources bid and talk to our electrician about this wall.
You know, add one on there that I need to let Debbie know that we accepted the bid for the painting.
Painting, yes. And I think they have those contracts ready to go. So are we going to start looking at policy updates or not quite yet?
I've been looking
Okay.
at them. But yes.
And in that, we might, I think we talked about trying to clarify meeting room eligibility.
I'm trying to make sure it's attachments there. That's it. Okay. In which case, somebody like to make a motion to adjourn at
Make a motion
9:12
to
p.m.?
adjourn at 9:12 p.m.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.